Do you have confidence that the president understands the details and the complexities of this bill?
I don't know whether he does or not.
President Trump hasn't been able to convince Senate Republicans to support the Republican health care bill for two reasons. One, it is a very bad bill. And two, because according to the Washington Post, quote, in private conversations on Capitol Hill, Trump is often not taken seriously. John Weaver, former chief strategist for John Kasich, tells the Washington Post, when you have a 35% approval rating and you're under FBI investigation, you don't have a hammer. Polling support for what is now the Mitch McConnell health care bill ranges, and this is recent polling taken this week, ranges from a high of 27% in a Fox News poll to a low of 12% in a Suffolk University poll. Joining us now, Liz Mair, Republican strategist and president of Mair Strategies, and back with us is John Heilemann. Liz Mair, it doesn't seem as though the president has a hammer. I don't know what else he takes, what else he has, and I don't see why any Republican senator would take him seriously in any conversation. Am I missing something?
I don't think you're entirely missing things now. My perception of this is, first of all, I think John Weaver has a few points that are very well taken here. I don't think he really does have a hammer. But in addition to that, Trump is, to be quite blunt about it, he is not regarded as somebody who is in any way, shape, or form a healthcare policy wonk or a policy wonk at all. About all he seems to know about healthcare is that, like many big employers, I think he would rather not personally have to deal with the hassle of getting employer-sponsored health insurance, and for that reason, he seems to have defaulted in his prior existence to supporting single-payer health care or socialized medicine, as you find in a lot of European countries. That's kind of standard. And I think that's probably about as much as he really knows about healthcare policy. I also think, candidly, he doesn't have the hammer, but also he hasn't really been that engaged in healthcare policy in the formulation of this Obamacare repeal package. So it's kind of hard to even measure whether he's proving to be a total success, a total failure, or just a gigantic nothing burger. He just kind of isn't really there to the degree that I think a lot of people would typically expect a president to be.
John, I, for one, think presidential leadership in legislative affairs is the easiest thing in the world to exaggerate.
Overrated.
Exaggerate. Very, very overrated.
Routinely overrated.
Yeah. Meaning that, you can be a master of the policy, and if this isn't good for me as a House member, I'm not going to vote for it. If it isn't good for me as a senator, I'm not going to vote for it. And because you don't find bravery in the casting of these votes, and they are not cast for individuals. Once in a great while, there's a handful of votes that can be persuaded on a personal basis with the president. I think President Trump had that. Bill Clinton had some of that at a certain time. I'm sorry, President Obama had that, but not in big numbers.
No.
And this president,
it's on the margins.
I don't see why he would have any.
It's on the margins. Look, I mean, I'm not a mathematician, but the math is not hard to do here. You got a president in the mid to high 30s. You got a bill that at the best is at 27. At the lowest is at 12. Right. What am I doing if I'm doing the arithmetic on Capitol Hill? That's not a thing for which, like, it doesn't matter what Trump does. You're looking at those numbers and saying, this is not really, I don't see how this adds up. The other thing that's the reality is that the one place in which they really interceded in this whole fiasco so far was the Dean Heller thing, where as soon as Heller comes out and says, I'm not for the bill, it's unhelpful for sure, but he didn't say, I'm unequivocally opposed, I can't be brought around. They say, we're going to run ads against you. They drop an ad on him and start talking about how they're going to primary him. And McConnell, rightly, reported in the New York Times today, calls up Reince Priebus and says, this is the dumbest thing you've ever done. So to the extent that they had any kind of leverage, that kind of behavior is the kind of behavior that not only, it's like anti-leverage. It's not just not having a hammer. You've got some, whatever the metaphorical opposite of a hammer is, that's the thing that makes people say, you know what, buddy, that's not gonna get it done.
And Liz, that is, of course, because Mitch McConnell believes that if we are going to have a Republican senator elected in Nevada next year, that person's going to be named Dean Heller. He's the guy who can win the state for us. Don't fool around with him.
No, I think that's correct. And I think that, beyond what John discussed, it's worth noting that that outside Trump group was actually planning on running ads, not targeting Republican senators per se, but running ads supposedly targeting like Democratic senators in a bunch of the states of Republican senators who were wavering on the bill. So it's not just that I think Trump and his sort of coterie have really pissed off McConnell and pissed off Dean Heller. They've actually pissed off a much wider swath of the Republican senatorial racial pool by virtue of that broader behavior. Now, some of that has obviously been walked back, but I also think with regard to the Heller ad, you know, there was so much publicity of that, and within the Nevada local media market, there was so much coverage of that the damage was really done, whether or not they decided to actually go ahead and drop their 7 figures running the ad attacking him. So the whole thing is really an example of, I think, them having severely misplayed their hand. You know, I noticed one Republican strategist was quoted, I think it was in one of the Axios morning newsletters, saying that they think that actually attacking Dean Heller and threatening to drop 7 figures against Dean Heller was probably the stupidest mistake that the Trump team had made, second to firing Jim Comey. And I think that really speaks volumes that that's a perception that exists amongst the sort of political strategist class.
Quick last word, Jim.
I mean, look, the other thing, of course, is the notion that Trump holds a victory celebration for the passage of the House bill and then later calls it mean. And obviously it's inconsistent. But the point is, if you're a senator,
that's anti-leadership.
Right. If you're going to exercise leverage, people have to know that you're going to be consistent and reliable. And once you think that the guy could do anything at any point, he comes to you and begs you to vote for something, and then he's going to screw you later. It doesn't work.
Yeah, those 39 undecided Republicans are waiting for him to call this mean.
Right.
Liz Mayer, John Heilemann, thank you both for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.